Hello, and a very gentle welcome. I'm so glad you could join me here, in our quiet little corner of the universe. It's a place to let the noise of the day fade away, and to let our minds wander into some of the cosmos' softest, strangest questions. Tonight we're going to be exploring something so ubiquitous, so ever-present, that it's almost invisible. It's not an object you can hold, or a place you can visit, but it underpins everything, from the light of a distant star reaching your eyes, to the genetic code tucked away inside a single cell, to the very thoughts drifting through your mind right now. It's a bit like the quiet background hum of reality itself. And so our gentle question for tonight is this: what, fundamentally, is information? As always, my hope is that our quiet journey helps you wind down, relax, and drift off into a deep and restful sleep. Of course, there is always the small chance that the path we're about to walk is a little too fascinating. And if it happens to keep you awake, well, learning something beautiful about the very fabric of existence isn't such a bad trade, is it? Before we begin our quiet voyage into the nature of information, I'd like to ask a small favor. If you enjoy our time together in this little patch of the cosmos, a gentle press of the like button helps our sleepy community grow. And if you'd like to join us for future wanderings, please do consider subscribing. I'd also love to hear from you down in the comments. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? And what time is it for you? Are you winding down in a quiet room in Oslo, or perhaps listening on a gentle afternoon walk through a park in Sydney? It's always such a joy to know where you all are, scattered across our beautiful planet. It's a quiet reminder that even across continents and time zones, we can gather here in this shared space to wonder together. And now, with all of us gathered together from our quiet corners of the world, it's time to begin. Settle in. Let your shoulders soften, and your breathing become slow and steady. There is no need to hold on to any of these ideas too tightly. No need to take notes, or to try and remember. Just let the words wash over you, like a gentle stream of data flowing through the quiet circuits of the night. And as we prepare for our journey, please remember that this is for relaxation and gentle curiosity only, and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Ready? So what is information? It seems like such a simple question, doesn't it? We are surrounded by it, swimming in a vast and restless ocean of data every day. We think of the words on a page, the latest news report, or the message from a friend that makes us smile. But what if information is something much deeper than that? Something far more strange and far more elegant? What if it isn't just something that we use or create, but something the universe itself is written in? That is the quiet, beautiful idea we are going to explore together tonight. So when we think of information, our minds often jump to grand, complicated things. The story in a whispered secret, a library full of books, the intricate data that maps a genome. But for our quiet journey tonight, we need to begin with something far more humble. We need to strip away all the layers of meaning and knowledge, and find the simple, elegant seed from which all information grows. At its very core, information isn't about knowing something, it's about reducing what we don't know. It's the resolution of uncertainty. Think of it like this. Imagine a single light switch in a dark, quiet room. Before you touch it, there is a state of simple uncertainty. Is the light on, or is it off? The switch has only two possible states, one or the other. When you reach out and flick that switch, that small click does something profound. It resolves the uncertainty. The question has been answered. The state is now known. The light is now definitely on, or it is definitely off. That single, simple action has provided one unit of information. A single yes or a no, an on or an off. This is the most fundamental piece of information there is. Scientists have a gentle name for it. They call it a bit. It carries no meaning on its own. It isn't a poem or a profound truth. It is simply the difference between two possibilities. It feels almost too simple, doesn't it? And yet, from this one, tiny, elegant choice, everything else can be built. The most complex story, the most beautiful piece of music, even the thoughts drifting through your mind right now, they all begin here, with a gentle choice between one thing and another. And so we have our quiet, humble building block, a single bit, the simple difference between one thing and another. It feels so small, doesn't it? A single choice between on and off. And yet, for as long as we have been human, we have been trying to send these simple choices across vast distances of space and time. We have always been trying to pass along a little bit of certainty into the unknown. Think of the earliest messages. A story whispered in handprints on a cave wall, meant to travel thousands of years into the future. A column of smoke rising against a silent sky, a single dark shape against the blue, meant to be a warning or a welcome to a neighbor in the next valley. A drumbeat thumping through the quiet jungle. Each one was an attempt to send a pattern, a quiet collection of choices, across a gap. But sending a message has always had a quiet adversary, a gentle cosmic tendency for things to get messy, for order to fade into noise. It's a bit like trying to whisper a secret across a wide, windy canyon. Your message is simple, composed of clear words, but the wind snatches at the sound, blurring one part into another, stealing a syllable here, adding a rustle of leaves there. A clear yes can arrive sounding like a maybe. A danger can fade into nothing at all. For thousands of years, this was just a fact of life. Messages got lost. Smoke signals were misread. Stories changed in the telling. But in the 19th century, as the world began to wire itself together with iron and steam, this gentle problem became a very urgent technical one. With the invention of the electric telegraph, humanity had a new kind of voice, a way to send those simple choices, those rapid clicks of ons and off, across entire continents in the blink of an eye. It was like being able to flick that light switch in our imaginary dark room from 1,000 miles away. But that whisper down the long copper wire was not always clear. The signal, a delicate stream of electrical pulses, was vulnerable. Electrical storms, stray magnetic fields, even the simple resistance of the wire itself, all of it acted like that wind in the canyon. It added random, unwanted chatter. It introduced noise. The clicks and the silences weren't always crisp and certain. An on could flicker and look like an off. The message would arrive, but it would be corrupted, full of tiny errors, riddled with new uncertainty. And so, a new and beautiful question began to form. How do you protect a fragile message from a noisy world? How can you be certain your quiet whisper will arrive perfectly, even through a storm? And for a long time, that beautiful question hung in the quiet, humming air of the new electric age. How do you protect a fragile message from a noisy world? The problem, it turned out, was that everyone was looking in the wrong place. They were trying to protect the meaning of the message, to make the whisper louder than the wind. But this question needed a different kind of mind, someone who could see not the whisper itself, but the shape of it. Then, in the 1940s, along came a quietly brilliant mind named Claude Shannon, a man with a deep love for logic, for puzzles, and even for juggling, which feels strangely fitting, doesn't it? He was an engineer and a mathematician who looked at the problem of noise not as an engineer, but as a poet of pure information. Shannon's profound breakthrough was a moment of beautiful, elegant simplification. He realized that to protect a message, you didn't need to understand what it meant at all. It's a bit like being asked to securely deliver a locked box. You don't need to know the secret it contains. You just need to know its dimensions, its weight, and what it's made of. You need to measure the container, not the contents. And this is what Shannon did for information. He took that humble, fundamental choice we talked about, that single on or off, that simple yes or no, and showed that it could be used as a unit of measurement. He formally named it the bit, a gentle shortening of binary digit. This single idea changed everything. A single bit, a single grain of certainty harvested from a field of doubt, was now the universal atom of all information. A photograph wasn't a face, it was a vast collection of bits. A song wasn't a melody, it was a long flowing river of bits. A whispered secret wasn't a story, it was just a specific sequence of ones and zeros dancing in the dark. And once you could measure information, once you could treat a beautiful, complex idea as a simple number, you could start to do truly magical things. You could begin to find a perfect mathematical answer to that deep and resonant question. How to make a whisper heard perfectly, even through a storm. And this is the quiet magic, of what Shannon unlocked. It might still feel a little abstract, this idea of a single bit being the atom of all information. How can a simple choice between 1 and 0 contain a photograph, or a song, or a secret? To feel it in a more human way, let's take a gentle stroll back to our own experiences. Think about a game you might have played on a long car ride as a child, or on a quiet afternoon. The game of 20 questions. The rules are so simple. The other person has an idea in their head. It could be anything at all, from the Eiffel Tower to your grandmother's favorite teacup, to the concept of loneliness itself, and all you have to narrow it down, from the entire universe of possibilities, are questions that can only be answered yes or no. You start with everything, don't you? The whole of existence is on the table. Your first question, perhaps, is it alive? With that one answer, you have just received a single bit of information, a single yes or no. And in that moment, with that one bit, you cleave the universe of possibilities in two. You discard every rock, every river, every planet, and every teacup. You have instantly resolved a colossal amount of uncertainty. Your next question, does it live on land, is another bit. It slices the remaining possibilities in half again. With every answer, you are sculpting an answer from the vast marble of the unknown. Each yes or no is a gentle tap of the chisel, removing everything the answer is not, until only the truth remains. Each answer is a single bit. And here is the beautiful, exponential power of it. With just 20 of these simple questions, 20 of these little bits of certainty, you can single out one specific answer from over 1 million different possibilities. It is a funnel of certainty. You start at the wide mouth of pure mystery, and with each simple choice, you travel deeper and deeper down the narrowing path, until you arrive, with startling precision, at a single, specific idea. This is what Shannon saw, the profound power of simple choices, strung together in a quiet sequence, to zero in on something impossibly specific. That simple, cozy game we played to pass the time holds the very key. It shows us how a stream of meaningless ones and zeros can be arranged to point unfailingly to a single, meaningful thing. A face, a melody, a perfect whisper, heard across a storm. So Shannon gave us the bit, a quiet, perfect unit to measure the shape of any message, without needing to know what secret it held. And with this simple, cosmic measuring tape in hand, he could finally return to that old, persistent problem. How do you protect a fragile message from a noisy world? How do you make sure a quiet whisper is heard perfectly, even through a storm? The answer he found is both profoundly clever and wonderfully human. Think about what you do when you're trying to be heard in a loud, crowded space. You don't just speak louder, you repeat yourself. You add a little extra information to make sure the core message gets through. Did you say meet at 9? You might ask. N-I-N-E, 9 o'clock. This quiet, intuitive act is called redundancy. And it is the first great tool that Shannon's theory gives us. Instead of sending a single bit, a single one, down a noisy line where it might get flipped to a 0 by interference, you can send a little chorus of them. You send 111. If the message arrives as 101, the receiver can make a very good guess that the stray 0 is just noise, and that the original message was, in fact, 1. It's like weaving a little safety net of echoes around your message. By adding a few extra carefully chosen bits, you give your message the strength to survive the journey. It is a quiet shield against uncertainty. But here is the beautiful, elegant opposite to this idea. Once you can precisely measure how much information is in a message, you can also ask a different question. What is the least amount of information I can send and still say the same thing? This is the gentle art of data compression. It's another thing we do without thinking. When you text a friend lol, instead of that was very funny, I am laughing out loud. You are compressing information. You are using a familiar pattern to send the same meaning with far fewer letters. Shannon showed that this, too, could be turned into a perfect science. His work laid the foundation for finding all the predictable, repetitive parts of a message, the data that isn't truly adding new information, and gently folding them away. This is how a song with millions of notes can fit in your pocket. It's how a sprawling, high-definition movie can be streamed across the world to your screen. It's all because the redundant parts, the predictable beats, and the similar colors from one frame to the next have been quietly and cleverly removed, only to be unfolded again when they arrive. And here we find the two great, seemingly opposite consequences of Shannon's quiet revolution: the power to add information for clarity, and the power to remove it for efficiency, redundancy to fight the storm, and compression to make the whisper as small and light as possible. Both of these profound ideas, which form the bedrock of our entire digital world, come from that one simple, humble starting point: the ability to look at a message and simply measure it. And so, with Shannon's quiet revolution, the modern world began to hum into existence. A world of silicon and copper wire, of computers that could juggle billions of these simple choices every second, of information that could be sent, stored, and perfectly retrieved. It felt, for all the world, like a story about human invention, a new reality we had built for ourselves, crafted from the cold, clean logic of ones and zeros. It was a story about machines. But here is where our journey together takes its most unexpected and beautiful turn. Because at the very same time that Shannon was puzzling over noisy telephone lines, other scientists, in other quiet laboratories, were peering into something unimaginably older and more complex. They were looking into the hidden heart of life itself. And what they found there, tucked away inside the warm, tiny sanctuary of every living cell, from the smallest bacteria to the tallest tree, was a message written not in bits of electricity, but in molecules, a long, beautiful, and ancient message passed down through billions of years of silent history, using an alphabet of just 4 simple chemical letters. It was the language of life. And the strangest, most beautiful part of all, this ancient biological language followed the very same rules that Shannon had only just discovered. It used its own form of redundancy, a quiet kind of repetition, to protect its precious instructions from the cosmic noise of mutation. And it was compressed with a breathtaking efficiency that still humbles our best engineers. The very same mathematical poetry that allows us to send a photograph to a friend across the globe was already being used by life to write the instructions for a flower, or a firefly, or for the quiet thoughts drifting through your own mind right now. The code of machines, it turned out, was just an echo of a much, much older code, the code of life itself. And this older, quieter code, the one our silicon and steel machines are only just beginning to echo, has a name you already know so well. It is called DNA. Think of it, inside the warm microscopic sanctuary of almost every one of your cells is a long, winding molecule, a spiral staircase, a gentle, twisted ladder made of stardust and chemistry. This is the famous double helix, and written along its rungs like an ancient scroll is a message of almost unimaginable length and breathtaking elegance. It is a chemical code, yes, but it is digital in its very soul, where our computers use a simple language of 2 letters, a 1 and a 0. Life uses an alphabet of 4 chemical letters, known by their initials, A, T, C, and G. That's all, just 4 characters in its alphabet. And from this beautifully simple set of letters, life composes the most complex texts in the known universe. The specific sequence of these letters forms the complete instruction manual for building a living thing. It's a recipe book for the branching of a neuron, a blueprint for the color of a rose petal, a vast cosmic library containing the complete instructions for assembling you. Every detail, from the way you laugh to the rhythm of your own sleeping breath, is noted down in a specific, elegant sequence of those 4 humble letters, packed into a space so small it almost feels like a dream. It is Shannon's quiet logic made real, not with electricity and wire, but with the warm, wet, and wondrous chemistry that underpins all life. The most sophisticated information storage system we have ever encountered was not invented. It was inherited. And so let's just pause with that thought for a quiet moment. This isn't just an abstract idea, a piece of faraway science. It is the very heart of who you are right now. In this moment, that spiral staircase of molecules isn't just a blueprint tucked away in a dusty archive. It is a living, working script, It is the hum of the machine. That quiet code, that long, whispering sequence of 4 simple letters, is actively at work inside of you as you listen to my voice. It is telling your heart how to beat, your lungs how to draw a slow, steady breath. It built the intricate labyrinth of your brain, the very architecture that allows for your thoughts to drift and flow, and for you to feel the comfort of your bed or your favorite chair. And stranger still, it is a message passed down to you, a quiet inheritance from a chain of ancestors, so long you can't even imagine it. The particular way your eyes crinkle when you smile, or a certain shade of your hair, these are echoes from the past, written in that ancient 4-letter script, a language passed from parent to child, through warm bodies and across the silent oceans of time, to finally arrive here, with you. You are a story being told by a handful of molecules. A beautiful, complex, living poem, written in a language billions of years old, and you don't even have to think about it. It just works. A quiet, wondrous miracle, humming along in the background, keeping you exactly, uniquely. So we have this living, whispering library inside of you, a perfect ancient script containing the story of who you are. But a library is only useful if someone can read the books. A blueprint is just paper until a builder brings it to life. So how does the quiet, chemical language of DNA become the living, breathing reality of you? It's a process of beautiful, elegant precision, a little like visiting a library's most protected archive. The full collection of DNA, your entire genome, is like a set of impossibly rare and fragile books. These master copies are so precious that they are never allowed to leave the safe, quiet sanctuary of the cell's nucleus. So when a specific instruction is needed, a recipe for making a new cell, or an enzyme to digest your dinner, a little molecular librarian comes along. It doesn't check the whole book out. Instead, it carefully unwinds the spiral staircase of DNA at just the right spot, and makes a quick, temporary copy of that one specific page, a single gene. This process is called transcription, and the copy it makes is a slightly different kind of molecule, called RNA. It is a messenger. This humble messenger, this little scrap of copied text, then leaves the quiet archive of the nucleus and travels out into the bustling workshop of the cell. Here, it finds a molecular machine called a ribosome, which acts as a master craftsperson. The ribosome reads the instructions on the RNA copy, letter by letter, and translates them. It gathers the raw materials, amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, and assembles them in the exact sequence the code demands. This is translation. The 4-letter language of the code is translated into the 20-letter language of proteins, and these proteins are the workers. They are the structures, the enzymes, the messengers that do almost everything. They form the architecture of your cells, carry oxygen through your blood, and turn light into sight. The blueprint becomes a building, the recipe becomes a meal, the whisper becomes an action. But this beautiful process, this silent chain of command from genetic scroll to living protein, is not immune to that old cosmic adversary we met earlier. It is not immune to noise. Every now and then, a mistake is made, a tiny copying error during transcription, or a random chemical hiccup can change a single letter in the code. A C becomes a G, a letter is skipped, or an extra one is added. It's a bit like a single typo in a long sentence. These errors are called mutations. They are Shannon's noise, made real in the warm, wet hardware of a living cell. Most of these tiny typos are harmless, caught and corrected by the cell's proofreading machinery. Some can be damaging, causing a protein to be built incorrectly, like a cake recipe that accidentally calls for salt instead of sugar. But very, very rarely, a mistake creates something new, something unexpected, and by sheer chance, wonderful. Maybe the typo in the recipe results in a cake that is not just different, but more delicious. Maybe the new protein works a little bit better, or can do something entirely new. This is the quiet, thunderous engine of evolution. This biological noise, these random, clumsy mistakes in the otherwise perfect code, are the source of all new traits. Each one is a tiny, accidental experiment. Most fail, but the few that offer a small advantage are kept, and passed on, and slowly, over unimaginable stretches of time, they allow the story of life to change. to adapt, and to bloom into the breathtaking diversity we see all around us. It's a strange and beautiful paradox, isn't it? The incredible fidelity of life's code is only matched by its quiet, constant capacity for error. The story of life is not just the story of a perfect message, perfectly sent. It is also the story of noise, and of the clumsy, random, and beautiful accidents that allow a poem to keep writing itself, one letter at a time. So, where does this leave us on our quiet journey into the nature of deep information? We started with the world we built for ourselves, a world of machines humming with a clean, simple language of ones and zeros, a fragile whisper sent down a noisy wire. But we soon found that our own digital world was just a new echo of a much older, much more elegant song. We found the same logic, the same dance between message and noise. At the very heart of life itself, a story written in a four-letter chemical alphabet, a living code passed down through 1 billion years of quiet inheritance, containing the instructions for a flower, for a firefly, for you. It feels like a complete and beautiful picture, doesn't it? As if all the threads have been woven together, connecting the silicon in our computers to the carbon in our own cells. And yet, what if this isn't the whole picture? What if this beautiful story of machines and life is still only the beginning? What if information isn't just something that we use, or something that biology uses, but something the universe itself is made of? A property of reality as fundamental as energy, as essential as space itself? Could the quiet, empty spaces between the stars, the laws that govern a falling apple or a spinning galaxy, also be written in a kind of code? Could the fabric of the cosmos, in some strange and wondrous way, be built from bits? It's a strange and beautiful question, isn't it? This idea that the universe itself might be written in a kind of code, that the fabric of reality could be built from bits. It feels like a very modern idea, something born from our digital age of computers and data. And yet this quiet, wondrous suspicion is much older than you might think. The very first hint that information was something more than just a human idea, that it was tied to the deep physical laws of the cosmos, came from the mind of one of the giants of physics. His name was James Clerk Maxwell, a gentle Scottish scientist from the 19th century, who famously unified the forces of electricity and magnetism. But late in his life, he dreamed up a beautiful little puzzle, a thought experiment that has haunted and delighted physicists for more than a century. It has a wonderfully strange name. It's called Maxwell's Demon Tin. Imagine a simple box, filled with a gas of churning molecules. Some of these tiny particles are moving fast and are hot, while others are slower and colder, all mixed together in a state of quiet, uniform chaos. Now picture that this box is divided in two by a wall, and in that wall is a tiny microscopic door, a door so small that only one molecule can pass through at a time. And guarding this door is a tiny, imaginary being, a little demon if you will, not a scary one, just a very patient, very observant little gatekeeper. The demon's only job is to watch the molecules. When a fast, hot molecule from the left side approaches the door, the demon quickly opens it and lets it pass to the right. And when a slow, cold molecule from the right side approaches, it lets that one pass to the left. It does nothing else. It just sorts them, one by one. Over time, something magical happens. The right side of the box becomes full of fast, hot molecules, and the left side becomes full of slow, cold ones. A hot side and a cold side have been created from a room that was once a uniform temperature. The demon has created a pocket of order from a sea of chaos, and it has done so without really doing any work. It just opened and closed a tiny frictionless door. This was a quiet little nightmare for physicists, because it seemed to break one of the most fundamental rules of the universe. The second law of thermodynamics. That's the law that says that in a closed system, things always tend to get messier, not neater. Disorder, or entropy, always increases. A hot cup of coffee doesn't spontaneously separate into a hot layer and a cold one. It cools down and spreads its heat out into the room. And yet here was this patient little demon, seeming to defy that law, creating order for free. For decades, it remained a beautiful, unsolved paradox. The solution, when it finally began to emerge, was breathtaking. The demon's trick wasn't in opening the door, it was in the knowing. In order to sort the molecules, the demon must first have information about them. It needs to see a molecule, to measure its speed, and to remember that information long enough to decide whether to open the door or not. And that, it turns out, is not free. The very act of gathering and storing information, even a single bit of it, has a physical cost. It requires energy, it generates a tiny puff of heat, a small increase in disorder that perfectly balances the books. The demon's little brain, as it observes and remembers, creates just enough chaos to pay for the order it creates in the box. It was the first faint hint of a profound truth. That information wasn't just an abstract idea, it was a real physical thing, woven into the very laws of energy and heat. A bit of knowledge, it turned out, has weight, it has a temperature, it is as much a part of the universe as a rock, or a planet, or a star. And so the patient little demon, sorting its molecules one by one, gave us our first beautiful clue. The act of knowing, of gathering and storing even a single bit of information, was not free. It was a physical act, with a physical cost, paid for in work and heat, keeping the great cosmic laws in perfect, elegant balance. But this beautiful resolution opened up a new, even quieter question. If gathering a bit of information has a cost, what about losing one? What about the act of forgetting? What is the physical cost of erasing a single bit? For decades, this question floated in the background, a gentle echo of the demon's puzzle. And then, in 1961, a physicist named Rolf Landauer gave us the answer, an answer so simple and so profound, it solidified the link between the world of ideas and the world of atoms. Landauer's principle, as it's now known, states that any logically irreversible manipulation of information, such as the erasure of a bit, must be accompanied by a corresponding increase in the entropy of the environment. Now that might sound a little complicated, but the poetry of it is wonderfully simple. Think back to our quiet, dark room with a single light switch. That switch holds one bit of information. It is either on or it is off. To erase that bit of information doesn't just mean to flick the switch, it means to reset it to a standard, default state. Let's say we always reset it to off. No matter what state it was in before, the memory of whether it was on or off is now gone. You have forced the system to forget. What Landauer proved is that this act of forgetting, this irreversible destruction of one bit of memory, must, by law, release a tiny, specific, and unavoidable amount of energy into its surroundings. It must let out a tiny puff of heat. It is the fundamental cost of forgetting. And with that, the strange, abstract world of information was tethered to the physical world for good. Information is not just something we think about. It's not just a pattern or a whisper on the wind. It has a physical reality, woven into the very fabric of thermodynamics. Every single time a computer deletes a file, every time a memory register is cleared, every time a single bit of data anywhere in the universe is irreversibly wiped away, a tiny, quiet sigh of heat must be released. A small thermal tax paid to the cosmos. All for the simple physical act of letting go. And so, with Landauer's principle, the last thread seems to click quietly into place. It's not just the gathering of knowledge that has a physical weight, but the act of letting it go, too. The erasure of a single bit, the irreversible act of forgetting, must release a tiny quiet sigh of heat into the universe. It is the fundamental physical cost of letting go. Think about that for a moment. It's a law that governs our computers, ensuring that every deleted file, every cleared piece of memory, pays a tiny thermal tax to the cosmos. But the poetry of it feels so much deeper, doesn't it? It suggests that even in the most abstract sense, the universe keeps its books perfectly balanced, that every act of forgetting leaves a faint, warm trace of its existence behind, a quiet, thermal ghost of a memory that was once held. It is a strange and beautiful comfort to think that everything that is lost in a way that the universe itself has to notice. And on that quiet, wondrous thought, it feels as though our gentle journey for tonight has found its natural close. We have followed the thread of information from a simple choice to the very laws of the cosmos. And it's time to let these ideas settle, and to begin our slow drift back to the quiet shores of sleep. We began with a simple question. What, fundamentally, is information? We started small, with the humble bit, a single choice between one thing and another. We saw how the great polymath, Claude Shannon, used that simple idea to build our entire digital world, a world where fragile whispers could be protected from noise and sprawling epics could be compressed to fit in our pockets. But then, our story turned inwards. We discovered that our own machines were just a faint echo of a much older, much more sophisticated technology. We found the same digital logic humming away in the ancient four-letter code of our own DNA, a living message passed down through a billion-year chain of ancestors, protecting its story from the cosmic noise of mutation, to arrive here tonight as the perfect blueprint for you. And just when it felt like the story was about the code of life, it became bigger still. We found that information wasn't just a tool for machines or for biology, but a real physical part of the universe itself, as fundamental as energy or matter. A piece of knowledge has a temperature. The act of forgetting creates heat. The very fabric of reality, it seems, is woven through with this strange, beautiful logic. So as you lie here now, letting your breathing slow, feel the truth of that. You are not just a collection of atoms. You are a story, a living, breathing library of impossibly well-organized information, a message that has been traveling for eons to become you. The thoughts drifting through your mind are a quiet stream of it, and even the gentle act of letting those thoughts go, of allowing your mind to empty and drift towards sleep, is a process so real, so fundamental, that the universe feels its quiet, thermal sigh. From a click in a wire, to the poem in your cells, to the laws of the cosmos itself, it is all one beautiful, interconnected story. My hope, as always, is that our quiet explorations have helped you unwind, and that your own internal sea of information is now growing calm and still. Thank you for joining me here tonight, in our little quiet corner of the universe. Until next time, sleep well and good night.